In today's video, we will talk about 7 watches that surprisingly lost a lot of value. When you make a list like this, it's easy to list a bunch of Hublots and APs, gold watches, diamond watches, the obvious choices that lose a lot of value, and in general, watches are not the best investments. However, these 7 watches sort of surprised me that these models have already lost as much value as they have. First, let's talk about Breitling and the Avenger Automatic 42 with the green dial. Breitling watches in general don't really hold their value all that well, but why specifically this watch surprised me is because it's a fairly recent model. In fact, just over a year ago, I covered this release on my weekly watch releases update. And in that video, I was praising this model quite a bit. I personally own the 43mm version of this watch. Now they created a 42mm version, which would appeal to a lot more people. So you can imagine my surprise when I learned that this watch actually lost quite a bit of money. In terms of the sizing, they're very reasonable, 42mm diameter by about 12mm in case height. They're also pretty reasonable lug-to-lug distance, about 51.5mm. So it should fit majority of the wrists fairly well. These watches feature 300 meters of water resistance, and they're powered by the caliber 17, which is essentially a modified ETA 2824-2 automatic movement, is the higher grade of ETA movement. It still has 42 hours of power reserve, however, it has some nicer finishings and I believe some upgraded parts. In terms of the pricing for this watch, the MSRP for it is $4,750 USD. Not a cheap watch. And get this, right now, on Joma Shop, you can pick one up for just over $2,500. Let me repeat that again. You can buy this Breitling brand new for $2,500. That's craziness. I mean, that's like slightly above micro brand prices. I had no idea that these watches lost so much value. 46%, in fact, in just a year of release. I guess not many people like them that much. And actually, one thing I want to mention that this green dial is probably my favorite variation. I do like the blue one, I have the blue one, but the green one is also very attractive. I thought it would be the most popular version, but I guess I was very wrong. Oris Pro Pilot, the Kermit edition. Okay, so this is another fairly recent release. I think this watch was released about 2 years ago. And once again, just like Breitling, Oris watches tend not to hold their value all that well. However, I was really surprised to learn how much value these watches lost. I've seen quite a few on people's wrists out and about, and I, for some reason, thought that they were a lot more popular than they actually are. So in terms of the dimensions, this watch is about 39mm in diameter. It's made out of titanium, which is kind of cool. It is also powered by the in-house Oris Caliber 400, which is their new in-house movement that beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour, and it has 120 hours of power reserve, which is super impressive. And of course, the standout feature of this watch is that neon green dial that is instantly recognizable. When you see one of these watches, you can recognize it from across the stadium. Also, on a date wheel, there is a little Easter egg. You do get a little picture of Kermit the Frog, I think for one of the dates, maybe the first of the month, something like that. So that's kind of a fun little feature. The official MSRP for this watch is $4,900 USD, which, let's be honest, is a little high. However, it is a titanium watch with the in-house movement. On the gray market though, on websites like Joma Shop, you can pick this watch up for just under $3,000. $2,950 USD is what it's listed at. That's a 40% loss on this model. Again, I just thought it was a lot more popular than it actually is. The Nomos Club Campus 36 with the electric green dial. If you've been following my channel for a while, you probably know that I have a soft spot for Nomos watches. I think they're very charming and they offer fantastic value for money. Now, this Club Sport to begin with is pretty good value for money. It features an in-house movement, Caliber Alpha. It beats at 21,600 vibrations per hour, and it has 43 hours of power reserve, and these movements are very beautiful. On top of that, this model offers 100 meters of water resistance and a very reasonable sizing, 36mm diameter by about 47.5mm lug-to-lug distance, and these watches are super thin, just over 8mm in case height. I personally own the Club Sport Neomatic, the automatic version of this watch. On top of that, just last year, I did a review of the larger version of this watch, the 38mm in the non-stop red and the endless blue. And I really loved both of those models. So it was really surprising to me to learn how much value these watches lost from the official AD to the gray market. The MSRP price for this watch is 1,800 USD. That's with the one with the stainless steel caseback. However, right now on the gray market, you can pick one up for just under $1,200. 1,195 is what it's listed at Jama Shop brand new. In my opinion, that's an incredible deal. You probably have noticed by now that this video is sneakily the type of video to tell you what watches offer some fantastic value for money. Because in my opinion, some of the watches on this list are incredible pickups, including this Nomos at 1,200 USD. It is hard to beat. The Mido Ocean Star Decompression World Timer. Another watch that I have personally owned, however, I owned the blue version with a diver style bezel. This version is pretty much exactly the same as that version. It just comes with a black dial and a black bezel. And this bezel is not the diver style bezel, it's actually the World Timer bezel. Now, when the version that I owned came out, it was a limited edition and these watches were difficult to find and they actually were trading for a premium. In fact, the version before the one that I bought with the black accents was selling for crazy premium at the time. So in my mind, I assumed that these World Timer versions are also trading for maybe MSRP or maybe even slightly higher than MSRP. And just like with many other watches on this list, I was really shocked to find out that these watches are actually trading well below the official MSRP. In terms of the dimensions, they're great. They're made out of stainless steel. They feature a 40.5mm diameter by about 13.4mm in case height. They have 200 meters of water resistance. The official MSRP for this watch is $1,310. And as I said, the previous versions with the diver style bezel were trading well above that MSRP. Now you can pick one up on a gray market for under $900. $885 is what I found it to be listed at various websites. That's about a 33% off of the original MSRP. Again, surprised by this one. The Zenith Chronomaster Original Triple Date Calendar models. The one that I specifically want to talk about in this video is the silver dial version because that's the cheapest version, the one that dropped the most. However, the other dial variations are also very similar in terms of their discount or the depreciation off of the original MSRP. And just like a lot of other watches on this list, this is a fairly recent release. In fact, when this watch came out, it made it to my best watch releases of the year video because I really do like these watches quite a lot. I think the design is very well balanced. Of course, having the El Primero movement powering them is just a really nice bonus. These ones are very complicated with the triple calendar on top of the moon phase and the chronograph complications, and they beat at 36,000 vibrations per hour. Also, the sizing is very reasonable, 38mm diameter by about 14mm in case height. For an automatic chronograph with all that complication, that's very reasonable. On top of that, the lock-to-lock distance is about 46 mil, so this one should fit comfortably on majority of wrists. The MSRP for this watch, in my opinion, is fairly reasonable, 13,900 USD. However, now you can find them on the gray market for under $9,500. $9,452 is what I found one on Jama Shop for. That's over 30% below the MSRP, 32%. And this is a fairly recent watch release, actually a very popular, in my opinion, watch release that is now trading for a pretty big discount. In my opinion, this watch under 10 grand is a fantastic deal. You can buy a lot worse watches for a lot more. And just like many others, I continue to repeat it, this one really did surprise me. The Omega Seamaster No Time to Die edition. I actually did a review of this watch a while ago when it first came out, and it didn't come out that long ago. It came out when the movie came out, and in the review and in many other videos since, I have repeated that this is one of my favorite Seamasters to be released of all time. I think it's very unique, and in a lot of ways it's very innovative. This one was the first, I believe, the first Seamaster released in titanium. It also has no date. That now is a big deal because now the new Seamaster comes with no date, and that created all the hype. But of course this one here also has no date, and it was released like what, 3-4 years ago. In terms of the specs, this watch is very similar to other Seamaster models. It comes with a 42mm case diameter. It's about 13.5mm in case height, and it has 300 meters of water resistance. I know a lot of people don't like the helium escape valve at the 10 o'clock position. I personally don't really mind it. Of course, the cool factor about this watch is the tie-in with the movie, and one of the better movies, if I may say so myself. I know it's all subjective, but I really liked No Time to Die. Now, in terms of the movement, this one is powered by the in-house caliber 8800 that beats at 25,500 vibrations per hour, and it has 55 hours of power reserve. And of course, it is META certified, very accurate, very reliable. The MSRP of this watch is 8,900 USD. However, you can find them on a gray market for around $7,000. Actually, just below 7 grand, 6,925 is the cheapest I could find on Jama Shop on the NATO strap. That's a discount of over 20%, 22% to be exact. And yes, comparing to other watches on this list, the discount or the depreciation is not that big. However, this is a very popular watch. And before doing research for this list, I didn't even know that these watches were trading so far under the MSRP. In fact, for some reason in my mind, I thought that these watches were kind of hard to find, but I guess not. I guess they're not as popular as I thought. And lastly, let's talk about Tudor and their Black Bay Chrono, specifically the Panda. This is another watch that I have reviewed in the past, and I will try to leave links to all the reviews of the watches that I mentioned in the description below. And for the longest time, ever since this watch was released, it was very popular. It was, in fact, the most popular watch that Tudor has been making. Now, the watch industry did change over the last couple of years. Some of the watches that were very popular are no longer popular, and that is to be expected. However, I personally didn't know how much this watch actually depreciated. You can buy one well below the MSRP, and I'm not even talking about the crazy resale prices, because as I mentioned before, when this watch was released, it was very popular and it was actually selling over the MSRP, and quite a bit over the MSRP if you remember those crazy times. In terms of the specs, this one comes in a stainless steel case, 41mm case diameter by about 14.4mm in case height. It is powered by the caliber MC5813 chronograph movement. It's a high beat movement that beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour, and it has about 48 hours of power reserve. In terms of the pricing, the MSRP of this watch is 5,775 USD. However, right now you can buy one on the gray market for a discount of about 22% and a price of 4,535 USD. Again, not as big of a drop as other watches on this list. However, it was very surprising because not that long ago, these watches were trading for over the MSRP. And now look what happened. And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I was very surprised putting this list together. Please leave your comments in the comment section below. Let me know what models surprised you and also what models I didn't mention in this video. Maybe I'll do a part 2 in the future with your suggestions. Thanks for watching this video all the way until the end. I really do appreciate it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for more videos like this in the future and give it thumbs up for support of the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.